This video may be deleted from YouTube, so to avoid getting lost in the future, I recommend subscribing to my Twitter, where all the latest news about Skibidi and more is posted. To be honest, I'm already tired of this nonsense and circus that's been going on for almost half a year. I was one of the first to criticize episode 79 before this whole situation with the company, and I'll be the first to tell the whole truth about the conflict between the company and Defuk. I'll say right away that I won't defend anyone just because, and I'll only speak my opinion, which will be based on common sense. I'll say right away, I'm not taking anyone's side. What Strider did is terrible. He essentially betrayed the person who gave him an audience and everything he now has on YouTube. He could have continued earning decent amounts from his fan-made content, and people would have respected him, but he wanted more. But okay, that's not what this is about now. And if it weren't for Alexei, there wouldn't be Strider and other YouTubers in this sphere, including me. Therefore, I'm personally very grateful to Alexei that from 2023 and throughout the 2025, he gave us interesting and quality content every time. His series became so popular that in 2023 it was the most watched web series. Everyone knew about this series, from children to congressmen. Hundreds of YouTubers appeared on YouTube only thanks to Defuk's creativity. I happily analyzed new episodes and did it with great pleasure. And if it weren't for Alexei, I wouldn't have such a wonderful audience as you. But, as we see, it's already 2026, and we're still stuck in this conflict. Almost half a year has passed and the crisis still hasn't been resolved. If possible, hit like and share this video, as I think many have been thinking like me all this time, but haven't spoken up, and we're waiting for an explanation, but apparently there will be no explanations. So unfortunately, we'll have to draw conclusions ourselves. I watched Iron Cameraman's video, and I agree with many of his ideas from the video, but not entirely with some. In short, he suggests to the company to remove all restrictions from Alexei and give him at least one free interview. I'll say right away that knowing the company, I can say with confidence that this won't happen. There's a contract, and both sides will adhere to it. As we see, both sides are looking for loopholes in the contract and using them. That is, Adam publishes leaks and bears no responsibility for it. Alexei calls for fighting, and this also gets away with it. Today I'd like to end this circus and for them to give us a final answer, as we're tired. For more than 5 months, we've been negotiating, but all to no avail. Therefore, today I decided to honestly summarize all these months, and today everything will become clear. Let's start with the company. Recently they, namely the company head, Adam, leaked all the correspondence with Alexei, where they tried to prove to us that this whole situation happened only because of Alexei. In short, according to their leaks, it becomes clear that Alexei simply sold the channel, took the money, and left after episode 79. But of course, that's not quite right. There's an opinion that in any conflict, both sides are to blame, and there's no single culprit. This thought can be seen in this conflict too. You can't show yourself as a martyr when you're not one, and you can't threaten YouTubers for truth and opinion, or constantly lie to your partner, interfere in his work, and bring things to the point where he's forced to sell what he built for years. And I'm not saying now that the act of leaking correspondence is very mean, and this is not the action of a serious company. But what if this was the only way to prove their truth? And what if this was the only way to end the conflict? First, it's a fact that the contract has a clause that prohibits Alexei from freely speaking about Skibidi Toilet and the company. There's confirmation of this, and the recent failed interview with Steven Asarch showed this. When the company says they didn't forbid Alexei to speak and freely express his thoughts, this is not true. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been this circus for 5 months, and the conflict would have been resolved in a few hours. All the ignoring from Alexei, his hidden messages in the form of music, shorts, and the like, shows that he can't communicate freely. But does this mean he's used all options? Or, let me put it this way, does he even want to speak out? We'll return to this question when we discuss Alexei's actions. The company claims that Alexei started cooperating with them starting in November 2023, and then he temporarily transferred copyright to Invis with the right to return it. But in May 2025, Alexei decided to fully transfer the rights to the company. He was also consulted with serious lawyers, which means he couldn't be deceived. and that the decision was already made by him personally. But what if I tell you that this was the only option for him? The company is right. Alexei himself sold Skibidi Toilet and earned from it. But let's look from the very beginning, as only this way can we understand Alexei actions. Constant strikes and fighting with scammers required protection. The protection became a company called Invis. Initially, they didn't interfere in Alexei's affairs and simply did their job from the sidelines and promoted the project at a high level. As you know, all collaborations with games, toys, and movie creation, all this happened thanks to the company. But over time, they began to pressure Alexei and lie. Viewers remember that one of the first global and public disappointments was in 2024, when practically all YouTubers about Skibidi Toilet started advertising the number 10124. I remind you that this was involuntary advertising, and all those YouTubers who cooperated with the company had to advertise this. This number was shoved everywhere, in every fan-made video, on social media, and even on Alexei's personal Steam account. And of course, everyone thought about some global event. And the disappointment was that it was an announcement of new toys. Later, it turned out this idea and decision was from the company. This was the first failure from Invis, but we couldn't even imagine that in the future it would be even worse. This is just one of the public examples of the company's influence on Alexei, and we don't know what was happening behind the scenes over 3 years. After this, some erroneous complaints to Gary's mod occurred on behalf of Defukboom. December 19, 2024, there was already a conflict with the company. YouTuber EBO asks Alexei how he's doing, to which he gets the answer that, "Very disgusting and terrible people have entered my life, and I can't do anything about it." It's no secret that Alexei means the company. Then he says he can't name specific people, obviously because of the contract. February 22nd, Defuk writes that he's not okay, and that the problem isn't that people want new episodes faster. The problem is the people he works with and what they're like. He feels deceived. They lie to him. He's paranoid. He's irritated by how they communicate with him, how they approach the work, their prices, their real capabilities and means. He feels trapped, and the people he admired in the past are actually those he no longer wants to work with. Then he writes that this doesn't mean such conversations never happened with them. It's like talking to a wall, absolutely useless. There's no hope with them, Alexei wrote.
Hi, Adam. Got a minute today or this week? Missed voice call. 7:11 p.m. Adam, tomorrow if you don't mind, at a dinner with my kids for my B-Day. All okay? Alexei, of course. Just told Dylan I had some positive news, but I didn't know it's birthday. Wishing the best happy birthday, Adam. Adam, tell me you got a passport. Screenshot, May 7th, 2025, excerpt 2. Alexei, there's some movement there, yes. This has some stages to it, and now we're closer to that. At least I know things work there and not stuck. But more importantly, after further considerations and some discussions with trusted faces, I realized that I'm ready to sign term sheet this week. Just whenever Mark lawyers apply the notes, I'm down to sign and start all the process of asset transfer, etc., as soon as possible. Let's get this thing done. Alexei, also can't wait to see Michael Bay thing. I'm very stoked.
2025 became the most terrible year for Alexei. As we see, in May, Alexei made the final decision about selling Skibidi Toilet. May 7th, 2025, Alexei writes to Adam that he's ready to sign the full transfer of copyright to him. Here's the full correspondence. We need to understand that by this point he weighed all the pros and cons. He's making a conscious step. No one forced him, and rather events developed in such a way that it would be better to just take, sell, and end this once and for all. Everything that happened after October 2025 is just trolling from Alexei's side. I'll say why later. May 31st, 2025, Defuk writes, "Hi everyone. In real life, I have matters that don't require postponement. If they hadn't interfered, episode 79, part 1 would have come out as promised. But it needs to be postponed a bit, about a week. All animation work is already done. Only final rendering, editing, and sound design remain. I didn't want to release new leaks, but since there's a delay, here's a bit more while I continue preparing the main course. See you soon. I'm fine. There are circumstances that can't be postponed. This is about Skibidi Toilet. As we see, the decision to transfer rights was already made but not signed, and from this day, Alexei had to hold out until the day of signing the contract and then leave this company. Everything collapsed after Alexei began publicly speaking out and suspecting that he was being deceived, and he decided to share these thoughts with subscribers in his Discord. Here's what he wrote. "I'm very disappointed and upset lately, brothers. It seems to me that the movie isn't being made. At least, I haven't received any updates, haven't seen any previews, haven't been involved in discussing details. Just nothing. Recently, the idea appeared to make a small joint project, a kind of collaboration. And this idea has been in development for at least half a year, as if no one is working, or at least no one talks about it openly. I'm completely isolated from the process. No concepts, no updates. Over the phone, they described something unclear and vague to me. I saw fragments of the script, and that's it. I feel like a fool. My hope is fading at an incredible speed." As you can see, it got to the point where Alexei was forced to share with his viewers. A few hours later, a video appears on Michael Bay's page where he shows that work is in full swing and everything like that. After this, Alexei's post is deleted, and then an absurd short from Alexei is published where he rejoices about the film. I can assume that after Adam, the company's CEO, saw this post, he immediately called his friend Michael Bay to quickly make a video showing that work is moving forward and everything is fine. We understood this from this screenshot. Here Alexei will write, "In Invis, they told me that there was a small misunderstanding on my part, and it seemed they wanted to surprise me, and Michael is a perfectionist and doesn't like to share details at the preparation stage. I won't publish this, I'll just pass on what they told me. I think Michael will publish something today, and it seems to me everything will work out positively for us. I'll wait until this happens. Could you delete the previous message, the one you published this morning? I don't know exactly when the final contract with full transfer of copyright was signed and whether it was signed at all, but what I know for sure is that from November 2025 until today, non-disclosure rules apply. That is, it's possible that even after signing the contract, Alexei has no right to say anything against the company. When Adam saw the Bring Boom Back movement, he decided to write to Alexei, asking him to make a statement that he left the project himself and that no one stole the project from him, to which Alexei refuses. After all, according to the contract, he's not obliged to fulfill Adam's requests, and his refusal is free. In principle, everything went according to his plan. The rules changed. Alexei started a big game. Since Alexei couldn't work fully and was essentially forced to sell the rights, he decided to simply destroy everything. All correspondence after November is trolling from Alexei. He deliberately agrees with them and basically no longer pays attention to them. He simply fulfills his contractual obligations. He agrees with them in all decisions and doesn't argue, and there's no point in it. It's just funny. Look how he later angers Adam. Most likely, the transfer of copyright and subsequently Alexei's voluntary departure from the project was at the end of December 2025 when this statement appeared. This post was agreed upon with Alexei. This is clear from Alexei's correspondence with Adam. Alexei wanted to quickly finish episode 79 and leave this company as soon as possible, and this was evident in the episode's quality. After he left work, the company was likely forced to make such a statement that supposedly Alexei is now an executive producer. Alexei mentions in correspondence that he already gave approval for his statement, and most likely he meant this particular statement. Adam says that Alexei approved Emergence, and this is true, but Adam didn't take into account that this was a bluff. Defukboom, who criticized raw fan-made content and even Dom Studio, simply couldn't speak positively about this. And he did it in the general chat on purpose. Alexei says that Emergence is essentially a masterpiece, but of course this isn't true. Then the conversation is about episode 80, and Adam says that possibly the episode will be on the Source engine, to which Alexei insists on continuing on the Unreal engine. I don't know about you, but I see obvious trolling from Alexei here, and I get the feeling he wants failure, and that's exactly what happened. After publishing the first episode, the company received a ton of hate and the Bring Boom Back movement. But we know Alexei. We know he would never allow such content on his channel. And since he already knew the channel essentially belongs to the company, he decided to destroy them this way. The plan worked. The second part of the plan: just stay silent and wait for the company's collapse. Adam urgently contacts Alexei and writes to him in horror.
Right now, there's a narrative online that the channel was stolen from you. You and I both know that's not true. You sold it, we agreed to terms, and everything was done above board. But because you're staying quiet, your fans are filling the vacuum, and Invisible is getting attacked. Some of it has crossed into anti-Semitic garbage. It's not okay, and it's not sustainable. You and I are supposed to be in this together. I know you don't have to do anything, and I'm not trying to force you into some public stance. But there's a difference between not doing anything and letting a narrative spin so far out of control that it damages everything ahead of us. If this keeps escalating, we risk flopping the entire roadmap for the franchise. I don't need you to go public. I'm not asking for statements or drama. What I do need is for you to reach out privately to Iron Cameraman, EBO, and Zach Dorr and tell them clearly that you're fine, that you weren't robbed, and that they're wrong about what happened. Not overly polite, not cryptic, just authentic. When you hedge, they fill in the blanks, and it fuels more speculation. You stand to make millions if we execute the plan the way we've laid it out. But that only happens if the universe stays stable. Letting people mythologize you as the martyr while Invisible takes the hit isn't fair. And it's not how partners treat each other. Your voice shuts this down instantly. My silence has protected you. I need your silence not to become a weapon against us. Alexei, Adam, I hear everything you're dealing with, and I get why this situation feels heavy on your side. But I have to stay within the boundaries we set and what's safe for me legally and reputationally. I really can't do private outreach to creators or fans. You know as well as I do how unpredictable and intense this community can be. Didn't I tell you these fans are crazy sometimes? That's exactly why I felt exhausted and stepped back in the first place. Private messages can get leaked, twisted, or turned into something else, and that creates a whole different chaos. Just to be clear, I have never controlled, coordinated, or encouraged anyone to say anything negative. My silence isn't a move or a signal. It's simply me staying consistent with the structure we built. You already have the statement I approved, and you're fully free to use it whenever you think it's needed. This isn't a lack of support or bad faith. It's me staying within what we agreed and trying to protect both sides from unnecessary risk. Adam, you're acting like this thing is already safe, already built, already immortal. It isn't. We're barely out of the gate. If you think a global franchise survives a year of conspiracy theories, creator martyr fantasies, and anti-Semitic attacks without the creator stepping up, you're fooling yourself. If you won't correct a lie that you know is poisoning the ground under us, then be honest with me. Do you actually care about the future of this thing? Or are you fine watching it burn as long as you personally stay out of the blast radius? I expect so much more of you. Grow up and stop being such a troll. You have been flaking on all your responsibilities on being an EP and a director. How can I possibly back this relationship going forward? Are you really just driven by fear? You say you're protecting your reputation, but reputations aren't protected by silence. They're destroyed by it. Letting people run wild with a narrative you know is false isn't neutral. It's cowardly. It's weak. It's hiding behind legalese because you're afraid to speak plainly to 3 people who would listen to you instantly. And let's be very clear, if this narrative keeps growing, there will be fallout. Fans will turn, partners will get scared, brands will hesitate, and the revenues you're imagining down the line, they will not exist. Nobody invests millions into chaos and bad optics. This isn't magic, it's business. You want my help with the bank, and I'll give it. I always do. I've protected you at every step. I've carried all of this publicly while you stayed quiet. I'm flying to Dubai strictly to show up for you in person because partnership means something to me. But partnership is not a one-way street. I can't keep shielding you while you refuse to lift a finger to shield the franchise. I'm asking for something microscopic. 3 private messages. Just the truth. Just enough to stop a lie from destroying what you've built and we invested into. You want to over that badly? Why? Tell the truth to these guys privately and this goes away. If you're unwilling to do even that, then tell me clearly so I know who I'm actually dealing with. Because if you're going to act like a child who won't face the consequences of his own community, then I'm finished being the grown-up in the room. Screenshot, November 25th, 2025. Adam, I understand you're under pressure and I see the urgency in your message. The audience's reaction is loud. But this intensity has always been a defining part of the Skibidi Toilet ecosystem. They react strongly because they care deeply about the project. Nothing about this pattern is unusual. You've described this segment of the audience yourself as a very small but vocal minority, and not the group you intended to engage or monetize long-term. So I am unclear why their strong reaction now is being treated as something requiring my direct involvement. Given how passionate this audience is, any intervention from me, public or private, carries a high risk of being misinterpreted, escalating things further, or conflicting with the limits of our agreement. It will not fix the situation, and it would not be appropriate or safe for me to take on that role. My responsibilities have clear boundaries, and I have stayed fully in compliance within them. These limits were defined in detail during the agreement process at your insistence. I'm not expanding or altering them. My participation stays strictly within the creative scope, nothing beyond it. You have a PR and communications team specifically hired to handle situations like this, including addressing individuals you've referred to as lunatics. While I personally don't share that characterization, it shows Invis already has the resources meant for this. And there is also the pre-approved statements, created by Invis itself within our agreement, available for use whenever necessary. Those are the proper channels for handling perception and presenting Invis's narrative to the audience. Alexei, I've spoken positively about the project when appropriate in private conversations, but involvement in community messaging, audience management, or narrative correction is outside my obligations and outside the role defined for me. Expanding that scope is a non-starter for me. I will continue providing creative support strictly within the limits of my defined responsibilities. Anything beyond that lies outside what was structured, and I cannot take on obligations that were never part of the agreement. Alexei Adam, you keep talking about agreements, boundaries, PR structures, but this isn't about any of that. It's simpler. Your fans think something bad happened to you, and you're allowing that misunderstanding to grow. They just want to know you're okay. That's all. When you came to me on May 7th after speaking with people close to you, you told me clearly you wanted to step back and sell. You weren't distressed, you weren't pressured, you were clear and steady. And here's the truth. I was being advised by my partners to protect myself more, to structure the deal in a way that kept you from shifting later or creating problems. I was told to play it harder and safer. But I didn't do that because I believed in you. I believed in the connection you and I had built. I believed that you were being sincere, and at every turn, I chose trust over caution. So when you now talk about sticking strictly to defined limits, it doesn't match the reality of how this all started. I'm not asking you to make a public statement or announce anything you don't want to say. If saying you sold it feels wrong to you, fine, then let's figure out another path together. But leaving me completely alone with this firestorm is not partnership, and it hurts because it's not the version of you I believed in. And this isn't about my personal comfort. I can take heat. This is about my team, real people with families who depend on this working. And beyond them, the people who bought into this world because we inspired them. The scholastic authors writing YA drafts right now. The game studios pouring time and resources into prototypes. The partners and creators who believe in the future of this universe. These people are investing themselves in this. They matter. They're not less important than Elite or EBO or Zach Dorr, simply because those guys send you flattering emails or make sycophantic videos. Surely your ego isn't so fragile that their adoration weighs more than the people actually helping build something lasting. And I need to say something you haven't wanted to hear. Your final episode wasn't a farewell. It wasn't a swan song. It wasn't a moment honoring the fans or the years of passion you put into this. You didn't work with us to craft something that felt like your legacy. You just made another episode, and then you walked away. Adam, that's what makes your current stance so confusing. You aren't being truthful about the situation, and that's what hurts. Because the fans are filling the silence with their own stories, and you're just watching it happen like you have no role in it. When you step back, it created a vacuum. Not because you failed, but because you mattered. And pretending that vacuum isn't real doesn't make it go away. I've carried all of it because I believed in you. I still do. But saying absolutely nothing, doing absolutely nothing, that's where the real harm is. I'm not angry. I'm actually looking forward to seeing you next week, celebrating and planning what's ahead. We have so much possibility in front of us, but right now it feels like you're pulling away from the very thing we're trying to build. And I can't understand why. Just help. Be a partner. Help steady this. Bay is beyond spooked. He is now unsure whether he should continue. I'm doing everything I can to keep him calm and committed, but he doesn't want to release in a buzzsaw. We have something rare here, something that could last. I believed in you, and I still do. I believe you believed in me too. I'm not asking for much. Just show up. Be a partner. Be a man.
As you can see, we smoothly transitioned to Defukboom. All these 5 months, I thought about only one thing. Why is Defukboom silent? I understand silence regarding the official statement that Adam demanded, but I don't understand why he didn't contact us all this time, at least with those he constantly communicated with. Why did he suddenly lose contact with us? Instead, he gave us a hint. Keep fighting, and that's it. Is this really enough? It would be honest, after leaving the project, to at least explain the whole situation to us. And believe me, he has many ways to do this safely. Even now, he can answer all your questions in the third person. Dozens of working workarounds to the contract can be invented. After all, logically, he could have been sued from the very beginning for this tweet, but as you can see, nothing happened to him. And moreover, he's still on the official Skibidi account. I always had contact with Alexei, and he always answered my messages. But after December, he decided not to answer us, even those who were in contact with him all this time. I don't know if Alexei will watch this video, but I'd like him to give an interview at least to Iron Cameraman and tell everything from his point of view. Tell the whole truth, even if the speaker is a fictional person. Dozens of variations can be invented. A film can be invented. A parody with his answers. Anything at all. But he's silent. I hope I was able to convey my thoughts in the right form. Still, I'll continue to follow the situation and hope my video will be seen both by the company and by Alexei. I hope my video will help those who were looking for truth in this situation. As for episode 80, at the moment it seems to me Alexei won't return to the project and Strider will handle the continuation. Alexei will create an alternative series on his second channel called Door Closer, where he'll create a series that will compete with Skibidi Toilet. Well, we'll follow the news. This has been, as always, Super Cameraman.